Guess what? I've got another video for you on sink tips and in particular MOW tips. Again, how boring can this get? Well, hey, a lot of people ask about MOW tips and there seems to be confusion. So, hey, if you like this, watch it. If you don't like it, turn it off or delete it or get rid of it. Whatever you want to do. The last episode I talked about the families, the 4 families of MOW tips. Well, within a family of MOW tips, there are 6 whole MOW tips. This is our medium family, and you can see there's 1 and 2, another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. There's 6 tips in a family of MOW tips. And this video is about when do we use which tip. And actually, let's go back a couple of paces. Let's go back in history a little bit. What does the MOW tip come from? Where was it invented? Well, very simple. It's a beautiful, wonderful, super smart, lovely, intelligent thing that the boys who invented it, the McCune, O'Donnell and Ward, MOW, came up with. And that was, well, let us take a sink tip and say we're fishing, and you take a level bit of sinking section and you just chop it to the piece that you want. Let's say you want a nice short sink tip, like a couple of feet long. And you've got your Skagit head, and you rig your Skagit head up, and you put on your 2.5 foot sinking tip, and you throw it out, and you fish, and you catch a fish or you don't catch a fish. And then as you go down the pool, you find out that that tip is too short. You now need a little bit more sinking. So you take off 2.5 feet, put on 10 feet. Beautiful. The problem, as a novice caster or a relatively novice caster, is when you change your head length and your tip length, your casting stroke has to change. And not many people get consistent at casting, because when they've got a short little sink tip on the end, it's easy to blow the anchor, and if you've got a long sink tip on the end, it's easy to get a thing called a bloody L. So this brilliant idea that the McCune, O'Donnell, Ward boys came up with was, let's keep the tips a consistent length. Let's keep them all 10 foot long. And it doesn't matter how much sinking section, if the tips are all 10 foot long, your casting stroke becomes consistent. That'll make sense to you in a second. Here's a 10 foot floater. This one's a pretty obvious one. If I'm fishing a fairly large, kind of bushy, tricky to cast fly like this steel plow, I want a 10 foot floating MOW. Next one is this one here. This is a 7.5 foot of floating and 2.5 foot of sinking. The tip is still 10 feet, so it's easy to get that casting. This is a hidden sleeper. Not many people like this tip or know what to do with it, but here's an example. Can of soda. Just imagine it's a boulder and there's a steelhead lying here behind the boulder, and you cast your line and you cast your line to swing over it. Well, with a short sink tip, that can just drop in and swing behind that rock. If you have a long 6 or 7 or 8 feet of sinking tip, you're going to swing in and snag the rock. That's an excellent fish catching sleeper of a tip for getting your sink tip right behind that boulder. The commonest one of all that most people use is the 5 and 5. That's a really good one. 5 foot floating, 5 foot sinking, still 10 foot. Like all of these. Probably the one I use the least, the 2.5 foot floating, 7.5 foot of sinking, but it's in the package because sometimes 5 foot's not enough. Then of course there's the 10 foot full sinking section, and that is one for getting down in the deepest and dredging. And those are your key 5 10-foot tips. But also, just for those days when you really, really need to get down, there is a 12.5 foot long section of sinking for those big dredging days. So really that's how your MOW tips differ. They are generally all 10 foot long. That keeps your casting stroke sensible, consistent. It makes it easy. It makes this fun and not frustrating, because you're changing tips and blowing anchors and creating bloody L's. And that is what those 6 MOW tips are all about in each family. Gosh, I hope that made some sense to you. I think it did. I prattled on a bit, but anyway, I hope it made some sense. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section and I will happily answer them somehow, some way, somewhere. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you on the water someday. Take care.